like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity for Mental Health. And today's topic is, it's a hard one. It just is. And so it's deeply personal. So it's about sexual abuse of children. It's a topic that everybody wants to push under the rug. It's a topic that family members want to ignore and they want to forget. It's a topic where the abuser becomes the victim. And then all the women around the abuser protect the abuser, but they don't protect the victim, who's no longer a victim. She's healing. And let me tell you. So, where this podcast goes, round and round, where it goes, nobody knows. I mean, share it with other people, and it's going to name names. It's going to name names. And, so how to present it in a way, this is what's difficult. Because the sexual abuser, the predator, the man, the grown man who sexually abuses his daughter, a stepdaughter, but he adopted her when she was 3. Like, my heart actually goes out to him. It really does. Because, man, what kind of deranged man, like what did he do? Was he abused as a child? He must, something in his brain must have just, I don't know, like, what in the world is he thinking? And does it for, 7 years or more. And then what happens? Like, what happens where his wife, the mother of the girl, let's start at the beginning. Well, not at the beginning. Let's go ahead and start. Imagine yourself being a 19-year-old guy engaged to a 19-year-old gal. Well, let's go back 18. Imagine being 18-year-old guy and gal dating, falling in love. Imagine that imagine that you're in love and all of a sudden the girl says to the guy she's dating, my dad sexually abused me. That's a little bit above that 18-year-old guy's, like, what is he supposed to do, especially since you raise good Christians and you're supposed to forgive. So this guy struggles. He struggles. He just struggles. He's like, what is he supposed to do? So he's not trained for this. He has no experience in this. And so he says, is it still happening? And she's like, no. So you dig in and try to find out, and then there's gaps. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, stuff, it's very clear he sexually abused her, but to what degree and frequency? It's all mucky. It doesn't make any sense. So you date, fall in love, and then you go ahead and you get engaged. And then on that fateful day where she says it started up again, and it's like, well, we're engaged. He touched you while we're engaged. He exposed himself while we're engaged. Like, what in the world? Now, again, if you're part of the Erler family, my heart goes out to you, because, nobody wants to think Grandpa Erler is a sexual predator, but that's what he is. I mean, just saying, that's what he is. And is it worse? Is it worse that Grandma Erler went ahead and protected him, defended him, knew it was happening and didn't do anything? Now, how do you know? How do you know that? How do you know that? Well, when that was told to me. See, Grandpa Earl, the poor guy, like his brain, I don't know what's wrong with, but it's like something's wrong. It's like something's mentally wrong. And when we talked to the FBI agent, we talked to the police and told them the story. Well, we didn't find out for 35 years that we had thought it happened for a year and a half. But then after 35 years of marriage, counselor finally went in and said, you know, Rosanna, you have disassociation. What's that? We didn't even know. It's when you're sexually abused where you disassociate, you don't connect. And she says it didn't start at 17 or 18. It started much younger. And so through a lot of work, counseling and other people, it's like all of a sudden, goes in. Now, Grandma Early, she doesn't want to believe this but she knows it's true because as soon as we found out when we were engaged, we went to the house and we confronted and we walked in. You don't make this stuff up. These are not contrived memories. Like we walk in and Grandpa Earler's there and Grandma Earler, she's at the church being a good Christian at First Baptist Church in Morris, where Pastor Caleb Counterman is pastor now. He'll come into the story a little later. And so we walk in and Grandpa Earler's like, hey, how you guys doing? I'm like, we need to talk now. He's like, okay. So we walk in the living room. I said, this is what Rosanna said about you. And he says, it's true. He acknowledged it. He acknowledged it. He confessed it. Now he denies it. Well, he kind of says, well, I kind of did some things and, but he has a good reason for them. Like, really? What are you? Is your mind that of a little boy? You're playing doctor? Like, what's your excuse? And Grandma Earler. So he confesses that he says, I'm sorry, it's all on me. It's my bad. I'm the one that did it and da da da. And again, this boy is 19 years old and he's a Christian. And so he's supposed to forgive. And it's like, confess. It's like, what? So Grandma Earler, she comes home from church. We sit down at the kitchen table. Again, you can say, oh, I don't want to know this. I don't want, and it's fine. It's just your children and your grandchildren, they're at risk. You don't sexually abuse a 12-year-old girl and do it for years and not be a predator. You're a sexual abuser. You just are. You're a predator. You're a pervert. You just are. And when you have other good Christian family members protecting him, the FBI, because it happened so long ago, it's hard. It's like, what do you want, a video of it? So we sit down at the kitchen table and Grandma Earler comes in and it's like, we got to talk. She's like, okay. And it's like, Dad's been sexually abusing Rosanna. And I mean, I didn't even get it out of my mouth. And Grandma Earler, Rose Earler, said immediately as a reflex, all dads do that. Ask her. Grandkids. Daniel, Trevor, Lily, Jojo, Allie. I mean, Micaiah. Like all of the grandkids, ask Grandma Earler, say, did you say all dads sexually abuse girls? Did you say that, Grandma? Now, she'll probably lie. Like she has to the police and she has to her children, Rosanna's siblings, and to Rosanna's own kids. Who does that? Well, again, as a 19-year-old, when Grandma Earler said, well, all dads do that. Again, I'm 19, but it doesn't take a psychology degree to understand, oh my goodness, she was sexually abused by her dad. So she somehow rationalizes it in her own mind. So she knew it was happening. She didn't go, what? That's not true. She didn't go, are you kidding, Dwayne? What are you thinking? She didn't do any of that. She says, all dads do it. All dads do it. And she dismissed it. And then you have a 19-year-old girl, a teenage girl, and after I leave, what does the mom do? What does Rose Erler do? What does she do? She tries to invoke guilt on Rosanna. You shouldn't have told Mark. He's a predator. He groomed her from a little girl. He should be in prison. He really should. And he had an opportunity to confess and to go ahead and, and it's like he did confess over the phone. Too bad it didn't get recorded. Yeah, I touched her inappropriately twice and I exposed myself once. But that we know didn't happen. Oh, you mean you did that when we were engaged, but before engagement, that doesn't count. Like Connie Erler, like my heart goes out to you, kiddo. Well, Connie Lowe, actually. I heard for you. I mean, you're a part of it. You are. You go ahead and text Rosanna over the holidays and you say, Mom really misses you. Well, all they got to do is confess. We asked for 3 things. When did it start? What's the frequency that it happened, and to what degree did it happen? Because the association, in brain science, sexual abuse is like getting hit over the head with a hammer. Like the arthritis that Grandma Erler has because of her dad's sexual abuse of her? Did it pass to the next generation and Dwayne Erler became a predator like his father-in-law was? And the church, what do they do? And it's weird because when we do find out the truth 35 years later, that it didn't start when she was 18 or 19. It didn't start then. It started when she was 12 and went for 7 years or more. So Caleb Counterman, he calls Dale Williams, who's the pastor of Emmanuel Baptist Church in Warrenville. Oh, the church that I grew up in, the church that. And what did he do? He and Caleb spread gossip and slandered. But because they're pastors, it's somehow okay. And so in the counseling, everything was set up to go ahead and have Dwayne and Rose come in. But Caleb, he went ahead and violated Rosanna's privacy. And I guess he's part of Morris. Like, Caleb, my friend, I just feel bad for you. Like, are you a predator too? I don't know. But you're protecting a predator, a child predator. And when you were notified of this, Caleb, you went ahead and dismissed it and you rationalized it. You said there's always another part of the story. What part of the story is it about a dad who's sexually abusing his 12-year-old daughter? What is that, Caleb? Are you afraid? Are you afraid because did you tell anybody in the church? Dwayne Erler is in the nursery, Caleb. He's in the nursery changing diapers. What, Caleb? Are you afraid that the Morris? Well, you have good reason to be afraid. Good reason. And then you go into the entire GRBC, which Caleb was a part of, but when word started getting out, he got out of it. But the GRBC, don't worry, Caleb, they're worthless. They have no spine, they have no capability. And Dale Williams, you're a part of it. You really are. And you hide too. You poor soul, you talk and gossip, hurting Rosanna further, hurting the 7 kids. Dale, like, how do you live with yourself? Well, maybe you don't. Maybe all 3 of you struggle tremendously with depression and other types of things. Maybe it's because you're enslaved by lies and nobody will address it. You all put your head in the sand. It's just, you know, I- oh, the word needs to get out. The word needs to get out. This isn't, and so, Connie, again, it's up to you if you want to go ahead and, use, you know, trying to use mental, emotional abuse on your sister rather than acknowledge that your dad is a predator. You can do that, Connie. I just hope your girls have never been abused by Dwayne Erler. I hope your grandchildren are never abused by Dwayne Erler. Because if it is, you've had your warning. Rose Erler, my heart breaks for you. It really does. I can't imagine what it was like to go ahead and be abused, probably raped by your dad. And the guilt that you must have, the guilt that you must carry in protecting Dwayne. Dwayne, you're the one I feel the worst for. To see the damage that you have caused on your daughter and her children and the grandchildren, how the sins of the father go to the fourth generation. Like, my heart breaks for you. It really does. Caleb, you're just a goofball. Dale, you're just a goofball. The whole GRBC. See, you guys ignore these things and hope they don't go away. But you don't, but the church, the congregation, you hope that this podcast doesn't get into your church, doesn't get into the GRBC, because you do, and you go silent. It's not going to work. It's not a matter of if it happens, it's just a matter of when and how. And like the gymnasts, there's so many girls, and well, how can it not be brought up if there can't just be one? Well, there can be one, but probably there's not. There's probably a lot more. So, Tim, you've been faithful on the addictions, the voices of integrity for mental health. I remember when you were told as the youngest son that it had happened, you weren't told until we found out the 35 years. And my heart breaks for you, breaks for your siblings. So I hope we break the cycle. I hope we break the cycle. You don't need to feel that you need to share anything, Tim, or you can. It's up to you. On this, I think it's good that the history, there is now a police report where Dwayne does acknowledge some abuse. It's on video, but it's going to take some publicity. The Morris Times, it's a small town, so they don't want to publish this. They don't want to take a pillar in the community, a good, godly man in the community. They don't want to go ahead, but now there's a police report. They said, Mark, is there a police report? There wasn't, but there is now. Rosanna had to go through that. Dwayne came in and testified. It's all on video. Rosalie, she didn't. She wouldn't. And so, if the police don't do anything and the media doesn't do anything, that's the power of the internet. And so, Voices of Integrity, and a really interesting group, Do You Hear My Voice Now? Like, we shut down the voices of the abused. And sadly, a lot of that abuse is happening from white males over 50, my generation. Somebody's got to put a stop to it. A lot of it's happening from Christians. And then pastors go ahead and put their head in the sand because they don't want to deal with Messi, because Messi might cut into their contributions in their church and all the others. So let's just push it under and let's just ignore this. And let's just let the victims suffer, and let's go ahead and let the predator, the abuser, go ahead and flip it into becoming the victim, where Dwayne is the victim. Dwayne, you're not a victim. I mean, you probably are, and nobody dealt with your stuff, because you don't get this kind of messed up without something. So your grandkids are going to hear it, Dwayne. Your family and your friends and all the other stuff. It's too bad, Dwayne. It's not out of vengeance. It's out of protection of other girls and others that don't have the resources to go ahead and heal. So if you get this video, pass it along. Morris, Illinois. Anybody in Morris, pass it along to other people, because I'm telling you, often where there's one predator, there's multiple predators. It's weird on how they can actually even connect and do a whole bunch of things. So the amount of damage, and once one comes out, just like in the, just like in the, with the Catholic and all the abuse that happened there, and it doesn't just happen in Catholic, it happens in Baptist too. So all it takes is one. And once that one gets out, the Morris, Times or whatever, the newspaper, I know you don't want to publish this because your advertisers, it's all about the money. Your advertisers, but the podcast, Voices of Integrity, and Do You Hear My Voice Now, is going to get out. Tim, anything you want to share? Is enough been shared?
So, Dwayne being my grandfather growing up, not only did you hurt my mom, you hurt me. You're supposed to be my grandfather, and I'm told consistently by you daily, every time I see you, how much of a disappointment I am. Being nine, a 9-year-old kid who looks up to his grandfather, who loves his grandfather, being told that you're not going to ever do anything compared to the rest of your family. The day I found out, they didn't even have to say a name. I knew it was you. My whole life, my mom hinted at something happening to her as a kid. And the day that I found out, there was no doubt in my mind when my mom told me that it was you. Because
it's interesting because
only,
Tim had shared
only,
something about how Dwayne, how you preached at him as a 9-year-old kid, and how he's not going to grow up and be a man. And here you are abusing little girls, your own daughter, and you're telling a 9-year-old, you preaching at him. You ought to be ashamed. You ought to be ashamed.
The day that I found out, I got closure. Because every little word that you said to me as a kid, every time I had to work with you and you tell me I can't drink water because I haven't earned it, as me and my brother are blistering out in the sun, working our asses off for you just to impress Grandpa. And we don't even get to drink water because that's not what men do, because we don't earn it. I got closure because all those little words you said ringing in my ears as a kid became silent. Because I knew from the bottom of my heart that you're not a man. You're just a little hurt little boy who has to send his grandchildren cards every year saying how much you miss us. I don't miss you. I don't miss you. And I'm not religious, but I think in something in your religion says something about this in the Bible. And there's a certain place for people like you that go when they die.
So when we look at this, thanks, Tim, for sharing, Dwayne and Rosalie, nobody's blaming you for anything that happens with other people. See, we know how to we're working to teach our kids how to take personal ownership for their stuff, but you guys don't take personal ownership for your stuff. And the amount of damage and carnage that you guys have and continue to go ahead and have, my heart goes out. Connie, my heart goes out to you. You remind me a lot of Rosalie. Go to church and you think you're really righteous, really godly, but yet you protect your dad and you cover for him. Like he's the victim. Yeah, I don't know how you do it. Rosalie, I don't know how you do it. Dwayne, I don't know how you do it. But anyways, yeah, get this out, pass it along. There's there'll be a link into Do You Hear My Voice Now? There's so many women out there that have had these types of things to happen. And Do You Hear My Voice Now organization, they're not really an organization. It's like a shadow organization where they pursue the predators, which are often white men in authority, white males, white Christian males in authority, and they seem to protect one another. Well, you're weak and you'll be found out. So hopefully this has been it's a hard one, but you can be healed from mental health. Rosanna is healing for the last 3 years since she found out that, went way deeper than what she thought. She's healing and she is becoming a powerhouse and she's finding her voice. And for those that want to fight against it, it's up to you. Good luck on that. Hopefully, pass this along. Hopefully, encourages you. If you have a story, talk to Voices of Integrity, or Do You Hear My Voice Now? There's lots of groups and people out there that will hear your story and share it. When you share your story, you no longer become the victim. You become the one that's the strong one. Always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.